Welcome to the Black Paper. My name is Ndukwe Onoha.
And I'm Chetawanze.
And today we're joined by someone, we all know and someone we've been talking to for a long while who's quite influential in the Nigerian and migrant community, and who's very passionate about issues that affect our community. His name is Benjamin Kuti, aka Oluomo of Derby. Welcome, Olwomo.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me on your program this morning.
Okay,
Thank
if you don't mind, since we have a minor celebrity around, I've always wondered for those of our listeners who are not Nigerian, when you say Olwomo in Nigeria, everybody thinks of. So please, let's know, how did you come across that name?
Well, thinks of what? Jetta, you didn't finish that sentence.
Thinks of a particular Olwomo.
And what about this particular Oluomo? Why
He's
don't be coy? Don't be coy.
He's a well-known thug. Okay, are you happy now?
Very.
So basically, Olwomo means a blessed child. So basically, it was given to me by a family friend of mine when I moved to Derby. So she was always had this idea, trying to do so many things, never worked. And she had this conversation with me. And then the next thing I just said to her, you know what? Why don't you register yourself? Then, put some flyers at Derby University, go to the bus station, and your business will boom. So she thought it was a joke. So we tried it for 1 month. And after that, she just got over busy. Afterward, before you knew it, she was employing 2-3 more staff because she couldn't cope on her own anymore. And she's like, you know what, you're definitely a Olwomo. And then, like a joke, the rest was history itself. But yeah, that's where the name came from.
That's quite interesting.
That's an interesting story. I actually thought that you were doing something Turkish in Derby, so that they just
Hell no.
So this is going to be the first in interview series where we speak to guests, get their opinion, get their weigh in, not just about issues that are going on, but also just about themselves as well. So, in the spirit of that, Olwomo, can you just let us know a bit about your journey in the UK, your history? Why are you?
Okay.
If
So
that
yeah,
makes any
thanks.
sense.
So yeah, of course it does. So I came to the UK many years ago, over 15 years now. I've always had a very deep history in the UK here. So like my mom, parents been here since the 1980s. I have a sister that was born here in 1990. So I've always come here on holidays many, many years. So it was after finishing secondary school in Nigeria, I was struggling to get into university. My mom just said, you know what, just come back here. And then, just come back here. And then the rest was history. And the UK to me is my second home. So it's home sweet home. But that's one of the reasons why. Yeah. Thank you.
Don't let them Nigel Farage hear that's your second home.
So you're not British enough. But over the course of those 15 years, how would you say you've somehow come to a place where you feel right at home in the UK, or do we take you do we take your word literally that is like your second home, so which means that somehow you still feel that somewhere else is home first and above all? And this is important because even though Chita jokes about Nigel Farage, but one of the things that he keeps saying is that people don't integrate, people are not fully British. So does it? Do you feel like you have some allegiance somewhere else other than just Britain?
Okay, good question. I think it's normal when you have a dual nationality. That's very, very normal to say and maybe I shouldn't use the word of first home or second home. Home is home. Doesn't matter where it is. Nigeria is my home. The UK is my home. You understand? So regarding integration, I think it's very, very important that people have to integrate. A lot of things a lot of people don't do very well, like in the African community, the Asian communities integrate into the British culture. So people need to start going out. So for example, the British way of life, going to pubs, going to football matches, go to cricket grounds. So this is not something you see a lot of ethnic minorities do. I was saying it on a program recently that a lot of us who've come here need to also forget the whole Nigerian culture. It doesn't have to be every day amala, and egusi. It doesn't have to be, banga soup. So once in a blue moon, go down to a pub, have a pint, lamb shank, mixed grill, eat some English food, some ham and egg, just try something different, understand? Mix with the locals. So for me, I think sometime last year, I think me and you met in a pub, actually, Mr. Ndeko, if you remember, near the city center. So exactly similar, something like that, you understand? People need to go out, like, normally on a Sundays, for example, most British family go what you call like a Sunday roast after church, or maybe, go to your local pub, have a Sunday roast, chicken roast, beef roast. All those things also makes a big difference, because maybe you like it or not, you have to integrate into the British culture, the British way of life, because listen, you're saying that you're not be a British citizen, you don't have an indefinite leave to remain in the UK. So, for example, you travel to some countries in the world, and as a British passport, that they ask you some questions about the British culture, and you're clueless. So that doesn't tell you that you're a real British person. So maybe you like it or not. I believe I also agree with the Home Secretary when it comes to integration. That is a big, big deal. It matters a lot. So if you're going to come to this part of the world, you have to integrate. It's not just the UK itself. I mean, I've been to some countries like France, Spain, and you see some of the the Senegalese people who have gone to those countries, or Gambians who have gone to, you see them, they've integrated very well into those French ways of life, that culture itself. So if you come to this part of the world, it's also important that you integrate into the British culture. So I think it's very, very important for us as migrant community. So what we can do is talk more about it, educate our people more, some of the benefit and purpose to make sure they integrate into the British culture. So yeah, thank you.
Actually, before you come in, that's quite an interesting answer. But and I agree that integration, of course, is beneficial. But there are also for those for whom that will never be enough. So I'll give you another example. Going back to the man who makes this argument only to pull the rug from under his own feet, Nigel Farage, who said of Rishi Sunak that perhaps he doesn't understand our culture. And this is a Rishi Sunak who was born here, he has lived his life here, who by all intents and purposes is British through and through, but who, because of one can only guess the color of his skin, says, well, maybe he doesn't. So if integration, or if going to the pubs or Sunday roast, or even as people are doing now, sadly, even changing their names, perhaps to either get a job or to make it easier for people to wrap their tongues around simple names like Ndukwe or Kuti or Cheta, and that will never be enough. So is it just a matter of integration, or is there something deeper that we're seeing happening? But again, of course, I do still agree with you that sometimes we can be too much inward looking as a community. But I do know people who are out and about, who integrate as far as that integration goes, but who are also somewhat very and maybe we can talk about this as a second part to his second question, but who are also very wary of opening up too much, because they still don't, trust still hasn't been built, so they will default to the familiar. But however, if you see someone like Nigel Farage who would blame Rishi Sunak for not being British enough, has he not integrated enough, and is integration that magic key?
So thank you very much. So for me personally, I think the is the audacity of someone like Nigel Farage even saying Rishi Sunak is not British enough. This is the first ever British Prime Minister in our country who always been part of the history of this nation. I think Nigel Farage was talking from a racial undertone. I mean, there's some things you do that was never going to be enough for some people, like Nigel Farage, the Reform Party. They will always have their own different principles, and it's going to be excuse. I'm sure that we can all agree that Rishi Sunak is British. Even if we're going to sit down and look at the history of this country, Rishi Sunak will have a big say more than Nigel Farage in the history of the UK. So I mean, for him to come out and say Rishi Sunak it doesn't integrate enough in it. It doesn't add up at all. It is irrelevant. So now going back to people like Nigel Farage, I think the best thing we can do as a migrant community, this is not even about Farage itself, is for us to also play our role too. Because by going to local pubs, integrating into the society here, going to events and stuff, you're also adding value to the British economy itself instead. So for me personally, as far as the immigrants are doing the needful, following the rules, and then we also train our best, we're lighting our people, educating them to understand that this is what you need to do to be part of this society. And then, speaking loud about it as well, for people to understand that, things have to be done. So people like Nigel Farage will be inconsequential and irrelevant at all. So for me, it doesn't matter. But yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks. Cheta, do you want me to just keep going ahead and or do you want to jump in, or do you want me to ask you a question?
Well, I mean, I just wanted to build up on a point. In the history of the UK, there have been 4 prime ministers: William Petty, Otto Wesley, that's the famous Duke of Wellington, Andrew Law, and Boris Johnson, who were born outside of the UK, or who were born outside of England, or outside of Britain. Of course, Boris Johnson. One thing a lot of people don't seem to know is that Boris Johnson, he was born in the U.S. He renounced his U.S. citizenship before he became prime minister. But I think it was his great grandfather or his grandfather was from Turkey. But Andrew Law specifically, and I think the Duke of Wellington as well, faced some form of discrimination. And if people know the history of racism, racism has always kind of evolved. So there was a time that Irish people were looked down on, and both William Petty and the Duke of Wellington were born in Ireland. So they also faced discrimination in their time. This was these people were around in the 18th and 19th centuries. So you will always find that kind of strain. Those kind of people who, as long as you can't trace your ancestry to William the Conqueror or something, they will always say that you are different. I think that ignorance is hardwired into society. So for me, it's besides the point. What I'm more interested in, Mr. Olwomo, is you've been on a very interesting journey, it appears. You've also been very active in the community. What keeps you going?
So thank you very much indeed. I think after being here for many, many years, for me personally, I've realized that we don't have a voice. We're not loud enough. And also, I don't like using the word comparison to other immigrants community, but listen, but maybe you like it or not. A lot of
Can
Nigerians.
I interrupt you briefly? I prefer the word
Yeah,
expat rather than
expert.
immigrant.
Okay, okay,
I mean,
expert. Okay,
yeah,
okay, fair enough. Yeah.
both Ndukwe and I at least came with skills.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, well, a lot of expats. So the bottom line is a lot of expats being there, and then you look at some other expat communities, from the Jewish to the Asians to the Polish. And you could see the line of the progress they've made. And you ask yourself, okay, where exactly are we doing as a Nigerian community here? There's loads of us, this part of the world, in the UK itself, but we haven't really making any impacts. Recently I was telling someone that the next mayor of London should be a Nigerian. What do you expect? We have the numbers, we have what it takes, we have the people, but we're not making that progress. It's sort of a individualism we're doing. I've seen a lot of our leaders who I feel like, they could have taken that next bold step. A lot of British Nigerians have been there for many, many years, but nothing has really, taken shape. So for me, in 2022, I just felt like, obviously creating a platform as a founder of the NIK community, taking that bold step to bring you Nigerians together onto one platform, and then, do the needful. So secondly, some of the purposes of having a community, all of us come together, has to be the fact that, listen, no matter where you are, let's share ideas, let's share goals, let's come together, and let's have one big loud voice that can support all of us together, that, will make us recognized in this part of the world itself. And so far, so good. We are on the right track. Maybe not 100% there yet. I mean, we've only been, I think it's 3 years now. We've created a community. We're not there. So going back to your question itself, maybe you like it or not, you cannot give up. You have to keep on pushing. The goals is there. Now, when you look at the Asians, the Jewish community, you see the kind of levels of progress they've made. These people have their banks here in the UK, here in the UK system, even the Jewish community. You could see, like, you go to some places that you see Jewish community center, Pakistani community center, Indian community center. We don't even have a Nigerian community center in the UK. As much as we're plenty, you hear, oh, Nigerians are very rich and so Nigerians are this, but how could we not united? Where exactly is setting us back? You see there's a lot of Nigerian businesses, there's a lot of Nigerian leaders. Recently, Mr. Odunlade, Ade Odunlade, he just became the head of the CEO of the NHS Trust in South Mosley in London. Never happened to a Nigerian. This is one of the highest positions ever in this country, in the NHS. So all these things, we have the right people. But I'm afraid the lack of a community coming together is what's holding us back. And I believe something that's, for me, keep on pushing me is to see goals, to see one of us, maybe, for example, in the next 3 years, people like Mr. Ndukwe can say, listen, Ndukwe, you need to be the mayor of Derby. This time we can push him. And then before you know it, we get there. And that's part of the goals. So, but yeah,
Ndukwe,
thank
why are
you.
you shaking your head? I not be mayor of Derby.
Yeah, no, I'd
You
rather
will
not
be mayor of
lead.
Derby so that all of us will enjoy the dividends of democracy.
No, but the mayor here is largely ceremonial and very problematic. Is a headache.
Is it not still but you'll change it now, so I will enjoy the dividends of
but it's
democracy. Anyway, before we sidetrack, so Mr. Olwomo, your response has brought me to what we really came here for, the reason we invited you. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has ruled out quite a slew of changes. Yes, the changes are not law, it's consultation stage yet at the moment. But 2 questions. A, what is your take? And B, what can our community do? How can we mobilize? I was trying to find another word, but I'm Nigerian, so I'll use a Nigerian word. How can we mobilize to work either for the changes or against the changes? Let's assume that we are indifferent to the changes at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chita. So I think a lot of people not like some of my next points. So regarding the Home Office new policies and stuff, for me personally, I think it's very unfair. But I can see where the Home Office also coming from. So you look at the UK itself. The UK is just less than 60 million population of a nation. A lot of things are, not right. And you look at a lot of, the whole boat, people coming on the boats and stuff. And the British public is getting irritated every day, every day, every day. Now, regarding the Home Office policies, regarding the ILR, the British citizen and stuff. So I think what people don't understand is that when you come to part of the world after 5 years, once you get indefinite leave to remain, it gives you an entitlement to benefits and social housing. One of the biggest issues now is the social housing itself. There's a lot of British citizens who are still waiting to be allocated homes. The British, if a lot of migrants coming now on board to get benefits, it could also affect the system itself. Yes, a lot of people have come in since 2020, 2021. They're paying their taxes, they're doing their stuff. For me, the only negative I feel like the Home Office could have done is that from henceforth, if you come to the UK from 2025, it's going to be 15 years to get indefinite. So people can make up their mind if it's good enough for them or not. It's also be unfair on most migrants who have been here already before, who've had their plan to. It's basically, you told people this is what's going to happen 5 years, you get indefinite, and then suddenly they're here. And then, it's a push for a setback. Also, regarding the Home Office, there's I'm sure that we've all seen the YouGov polls lately about reform parties in the lead. Labour's not doing too well. In fact, I think Keir Starmer has one of the lowest polls ever as a UK Prime Minister itself. And maybe you like it or not, the government's pride is to make sure put the British citizens first. You understand? That's their priority. If the British public is leaning towards Reform Party, for me, it's a very disturbing fact. You know, I find it very disturbing myself. It's never happened, to the best of my knowledge, in this country, whereby, you know, the British public are leaning towards an anti-immigration political party. So that's made the government, you know, shaping a lot of stuff. Okay, where exactly are we doing wrong? What is it that the British public are not happy about? I think for me, the mistake the government made the whole the boats stuff. They didn't really handle it very well. I think now they're trying their best, you know, regarding taking someone back to France, that kind of stuff. But I think it might be just a bit too late to convince the British public to say this is exactly what the situation is. Going back on the people who've come in on the Jackpot stores in 2021, the skilled migration store, I think it's very unfair on them. A lot of them have worked, they pay their taxes, they've added to the economy itself. You know, for me, I think it's a bit harsh on them. What the Home Office could have done is brought up a new rules from now on, from 2025. If you're going to come to the UK, it will take you 10, 15 years to get your indefinite leave to remain in the UK, to get British passport, 20 years. And anyone's going to come here, is either they agree to or leave it. But the people who are here already is a big setback for them. A big setback. And, you know, because obviously some of us have been here for a while too, I can see from the Home Office point of view, you know, regarding a lot of people coming, I think it's more than 3-4 million people suddenly getting definite leave to remain in the UK, and which entitles them to benefits. We know there's different types of benefits: job seekers allowance, child benefits, unemployment benefits, and then people entitled to social housing. It can collapse the system. It's never happened like this, something like that. I think they call it the Boris wave, because obviously after the COVID 2020 itself. But I think from me, my own point as a community leader itself is for us to sit down and sort of have a balance with the Home Office. Like, for example, people are talking about, okay, let's have our indefinite leave to remain, but take away the benefits. I mean, most Nigerians are hardworking. People are not, I mean, if people are not sitting there to be lazy and stuff. Okay, give us an indefinite leave to remain, take away the benefits and social housing. So I think maybe it's a thing the Home Office can meet our people, meet the migrants community halfway. You're entitled to your indefinite leave to remain, but you know, no resource to the public funds like it has been. So people don't have any problem with that. So now telling people that they can't get indefinite to remain after 4 or 5 years in the UK already is a bit unfair. That's it. Well, I mean, like I said, I could see from the Home Office point of view, but for me as a committee person, I just feel like we can sit down with the Home Office. This is where people like UK come in, people sit down at the high table and have that balanced discussion. Give us indefinitely to remain, take away the public funds, no access to public funds regarding, you know, benefits, social housing. Our people are happy with that. There's no issue with that. But yeah, that's what, for me, I think is just you know, we can meet in the middle ground with the Home Office as well. But yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, but is there not a risk that will create a two-tier system? Ndukwe, I want to mention specifically that Olwomo used the expression people who have a seat at the high table, like Mr. Ndukwe. So I always tell you, you are part of the government. So it's time for us to come and collect these dividends of democracy from you. We have Olwomo. So is there not a risk that will create a two-tier system? So for example, the right wingers are always complaining about two-tier policing. So are you not going to now have a two-tier citizenship where some citizens can have benefits and some others can't simply because they come from immigrant communities? And that creates issues. So, and I think the best example I can give of two-tier citizenship in my view is Shemaima Begum, the girl who went to join ISIS some years ago and eventually got stripped of her British citizenship, despite the fact that A, she was born in the UK, and B, she didn't have any other citizenship, so she's now effectively stateless. And it raises the question, if her grandparents had been white, would they have stripped her citizenship?
Good question. Good question. I mean, so I think I didn't like what happened to Begum, Shea Begum for me myself. But then a part of me also feels like she's a national security threat. After the July 7 bomb in London, there's a lot of issues that happen. The whole situation is just about, weighing different options. And I agree with you. If Shez Begin's parents were like British, white British, she would have been allowed back in the country, probably, of course, arrested, maybe gone to prison, 10 years. I mean, they like radicalize, the whole terrorism stuff off her head. I think from that's what the government should have done. Taking her to revoking a British passport, I think is very unfair. On that, I think obviously the case went to the Supreme Court. Somehow they lost the case at the Supreme Court, which is a bit unfair. Now, going back to the two-tier system, I think when you look at what the British public are doing right now, the fact that the British public are leaning towards the Reform Party, that's a disturbing factor for every one of us. And as a migrant community, it comes to a stage where, okay, how do we get it right? What can we do to sort of, is sort of a 50-50 for everyone? A tier 2 system citizenship, I think it's not 100% that bad. Because when you look at some of the stuff Oluomo is saying now, that once you're a British citizen, you're entitled to benefits, social housing, everything everybody's entitled, which I think is icing on the cake. Now going back to indefinite leave to remain and trying to balance it, do you want a system is going to collapse? The answer is no. Understand? Do you want a system that is going to affect every one of us? The answer is no. So how do we get it right? How do we meet a middle point whereby even the likes of the Reform Party, they'll still complain, but most importantly, the British public will also see from the government's point of view. Because listen, as much as we could talk back and forth, what matters for the government itself is to put the British first, the British citizens first. So how do they balance it? For them to educate the British folk to say, listen, people have come in here, they've worked, they've added to the economy of this country, they've paid their taxes. You look at the NHS, for example, today, I could say half of the people in NHS are, now migrants, understand? Just think if all of them goes back home, the NHS will collapse itself. So it's only fair that, we sort of have a middle point for both parties. That's all my own point of view. Is it fair for everybody? Absolutely not. But we have to make progress. We have to meet somewhere. It's better than, people getting, like for example, care workers getting 15 years, and then you get, innovators, people, investors, the global talent getting 3 years after indefinitely. It's not going to be easy. But I think another conversation that I'd love to have one of these days is, immigrants upskilling themselves is very, very important. Now, going back to people like Ndukwe, where he comes in, because I'll use that as an example now. Since Ndukwe came in, joined the council in Derby, we've never had, we've always had Nigerian Independence Day in Derby, but we've never had a flag raised at Derby City Council. We've never gone there and so, but this is because we have one of us in that place now. Instead. And since the nuclear is in there, every year we come in there, celebrate our Independence Day, raise the Nigerian flag, the Derby City Council recognizing Nigerians in Derby because we have one of us on that table. And that's exactly what it is. If we can get someone like Ndukwe, one of us like in those high tables, number 10 down the street, who can speak on behalf of the expat, like you say, expat communities and the migrant community, listen, it will make life a lot easier. Because we don't have our people in there, they don't understand what we're going through. They just put one-on-one together. I would love to have a chance to sit down with the Home Secretary to say, listen, let's weigh all these options up. Our people are not bothered about benefits. These are hardworking people. People, how much you're £70 a week? Is that what they're going to survive in? They'll tell you, God forbid, understand? So these are people that are ready to work. Just give them the opportunity to do the needful, make them law-abiding citizens, and of course legalized, and they'll have an impact on British economy. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So let me jump, because I've, as you say, in Nigeria, I've had some subtle buzzwords here and there, especially from Cheta, who never misses a chance to remind me that I'm part of the Labour Party. Yeah, but the truth is, yes, to some extent, and thanks for your kind words, Oluomo. To some extent, we have some say what happens at the local level as councillors and at the local authority, but ultimately, we will be something of a bridge. We will be something of a bridge to the national party, and that's where again, as you say, people like me coming to just make sure that we keep knocking on the doors of the national government. But the thing is, Cheta, to your question, we already do have a multi-tier system. It's not even just a two-tier system, because and if you don't look at it strictly from a citizenship point of view, if you're looking at it from a resident point of view, we have a multi-point residency system. So there's the people who have leave to enter, who are just there, and that means, yes, you can work, you're working, you're paying taxes, you must contribute already. Then there are those who have, or the indefinite leave to remain, which is where you now start getting some stipends for all the work that you have put in, and is on a path to citizenship where you have full rights. However, when conversations, and this is where I sort of like differ with some of the things that have been said already, when conversations around the contribution of people from migrant communities is hard, especially with regards to benefits. There's a tendency to focus just on benefits, but not to focus on the cost of residency. So on average, over a 5-year period, someone who has migrated to the UK, especially from Africa, will pay at least £5,000 more than in taxes, in fees, than a British national. Because even before you get on the plane to come to this UK, you will pay what is called the immigration health surcharge, which keeps going up almost every year. So you're already being. So when people talk about maybe using the NHS, you've paid for that upfront. And then if you get, excuse me, except if you're exempt, maybe from if you work in the NHS or you care worker, whenever if you have a job and you're paid, you're also paying, part of your taxes go to the NHS. So as a migrant, you're paying double for the NHS. You're taxed twice for the NHS. That has not been addressed. And then of course, if you're going to school, or if you're using any other public service, because of course you don't have any recourse of public funds, you're paying the full amount. So when people like Shabana Mahmood, when people like what's his name, Farage, Tommy Robinson, or whoever other deviant I will call Tommy especially, is out there, that keeps saying that migrants are benefiting from no, you're paying more. Your work and the taxes you've had to pay before coming to the country are actually upholding these systems. So when you put up a blockade like it's been like it's being proposed to migrants coming here, what you do is actually say, well, we don't need that immigration health surcharge, which takes away from what is being paid. And then the extra double taxation for the NHS, you're already taking, so you're taking money out of the system. But the other thing that needs to be said, one of my biggest upsets, or things that upsets me most about this proposal, is the fact that if you are in Nigeria, for instance, and we know this story, or these stories, we always upheld countries like the UK, the US, and other European and Western democracies as places where the rule of law was sacrosanct, as places where a contract was respected and upheld. So based on that, if you had said to someone, come on this visa, pay this NHS surcharge or IHS surcharge, pay these other fees, these visa fees for yourself, and if you have children, for your families. And in coming, this is our own guarantee to you. In 5 years, you will be able to apply for an indefinite leave to remain. And after a year, after having gotten that, you can apply for a citizenship. That was the basis of, that was a covenant on, upon which people made decisions to upend their lives. And let us not, and I'm not talking about the illegal, so-called illegal migration, which people call the irregular migrations, people coming on boats, because that was just the entry point. The main focus, if anyone has been following and has been saying this, the so-called boat people were just the excuse to go after legal migrants. Now, people then upended their lives. People sold their properties, sold family properties that had been in families for generations, lands and all that, based on an agreement that the state that they thought they had with a country that we always upheld for, or that we always put up as a poster child for upholding the rule of law. Now they have come here, and suddenly you're proposing to do something that Buhari was famous or infamous for, which is applying law in retrospect. What does that say for trust? How do you then encourage people or expect people to engage with the system, which which can change its agreements with you depending on what a YouGov poll says?
Before Olwomo answers that one, you are part of the government. Talk to your government people, because that is one of the reasons that people like you fled from places like Nigeria for. That's anyway. There's a subsistent Supreme Court judgment in the UK based on a suit brought by HSMP Migrant back in 2008, I think. That clearly states that laws cannot be applied retroactively. So I think what's the job that people like you, Oluomo activists, and you, politicians, and people at the high table like Ondukwe have, is to remind them that this is already the law. As someone who advises people in negotiations, what I would say is that this is a negotiating tactic. Doesn't mean that people should get complacent about it, but I think it's a negotiating tactic. So that's my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, Loma, and I agree with you, Cheta. It is a negotiation tactic, which is why I think this goes into how I'd like to Lomo to respond. One of my biggest upsets, again, or I don't know why I keep saying biggest upset, but one of the things that really does upset me is the propensity of our people to get upset about a thing and then not act upon it. So predictably, as the first time, when the white paper was put forward, and that was when Yvette Cooper was Home Secretary, one of the things we did, Jetta, was say, right, let's start a podcast where we can talk about migrant experiences and how policies affect them, and of course try and give information to people about how to navigate it. But then I also, in the groups where I am, I started saying to people, look, you need to write to your MP. Tell them how these things might affect you. Let them know, because it's a feedback mechanism. We're lucky to be in a country where you can actually interact with your representative and they will listen to you and feedback to you. But guess what? It was either people saying, well, what do I, show me what to write, or yeah, never mind. And then that died off. For a while, I kept putting up a poll in the group saying, look, how many of you have written to your MP? Not a lot of people have. And because I also know a few people I can talk to in a few MP's offices, I asked, have you gotten a lot of letters? They hadn't. But there was a lot of anger and conversation going on in the groups. Now Shabana Mahmood has come with this again. I'm saying to people, write to your MP. But what do we see? Something circulating, people saying, oh no, let's go vote another party. And it just does my head in, because I'm saying you are reacting just to anger with no plan. And if you look at the other communities who came here together with us, they march with intention. There's a reason why they're always consulted formally and informally, and that's because there's always intention behind their actions. But Olwomo, how do we get out of this doom loop of just being angry and not doing anything about it?
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, Ndeke, for that. I think the first thing for me is, when there's a problem, what are the solutions? So some of the solutions I would suggest is including someone like you. I think is also important that you play a big role as well, because what we can also do is, for example, host Twitter space once in 3 months. Talk about British politics. Talk about some of the benefits of people joining, coming on board. It doesn't matter from a councillor's level point of view. And then he also enlightened our people to understand, okay, you can't just keep on complaining. You have to make that change. And that change starts from me and you understand? So you can shout all day long, you can scream all day long. If you're not part of the table and people making decisions, nothing's going to happen. So I think the most important thing to do is educate our people. British politics is not Nigerian politics. No one is threatening your life here. No one is doing stuff. So I think that will also help our people to understand that, because when they about politics, some of our people they don't like to hear that politics. So in their own mindset, the whole Nigerian politics is aggressive, they talk rich stuff. So for them to enlighten themselves that this is not the way it is. And I think something you can also do as well, maybe once in a blue if you're a member of parliament, you could just, maybe we could put a tweet that, listen, if 3 members of our community can come down, people can just be themselves, come down, spend a day with you, for example, they can do the video. So those little things also will open up people's eyes to understand, okay, this is actually not bad. I'll give an example of something that happened during the by-elections a couple of weeks ago. I did a tweet that people should get out, vote and stuff. And some people voted for the first time. Some people didn't understand that as a common citizen, they have a right to vote. So this will need to enlighten our people. So some of them went to vote for the first time. They were shocked. Like within 5-10 minutes, they voted, they've come back. Somebody even said they even offered them tea and biscuits. As, what's going on? So you need to understand that is the mindset back home is different entirely. So when they come in, now you also have to see from our people's point of view. Regarding writing letters to the MPs and stuff, I've seen people so common in the community. Someone say, me that I'm fighting, trying to get my say, I'm going to write letter to the MP. So they now put my name in something scared. This one's a troublemaker. People are so scared, you understand? So
Names
they
of
don't
high
understand.
pickers.
Yeah, so they don't understand this kind of stuff. So our people need education and enlightenment. This is where someone like you comes in. And I'm challenging you today, Mr. Nkwe, that let's have a Twitter space once in 3 months. Talk about politics. Understand? So talk
Well,
about, I
no,
think both.
but I'm always up for it.
Okay, great. Okay. I know your business. I think both of us has a role to play. Understand? I mean, some of us who have been there for many years and someone like you is always part. So we basically open up people's eyes. Some people are scared to write letters to the MPs. They say, so put my name and address. Say me that I've not even got mine definitely. Oluomo, please, is people, if someone say I should write a letter on behalf of the community for everybody, then they can be sending it to the MPs. They rather have that rather than have their own personal name there. I say it doesn't work this way because your local constituencies, you live in your neighborhood, so you have to use your name and address. But people are scared because they think maybe immigration will come and do something. So this something is holding our people back at all times. In fact, for you to see how often it is about some people are saying we should. In fact, someone even tagged me and said we shouldn't have voted for Labour Party. And Olwomo they shall Labour. We now see where we are now. I said no, it doesn't work that way. Now going to vote for another party doesn't mean they're not going to change the policy 2-3 years down the line.
No, let me say this, and Cheta will probably kick me later. But the truth is, I'll always keep saying we need to learn from our other colleagues from other migrant communities who have seen worse than we're seeing now, but who, through their wisdom, because you always need to ask yourself, this person that is going down this route, is there a reason why? If we start the surest way, and this is very cynical, I know, but the surest way to get reform through the door is to fracture the vote that we have as a community. However, now there are arguments that perhaps this is what some liberal strategists are hoping for, that people will get too scared of how reform might come in and still vote them. That should not be, because if there's an agreement you have with people, keep that agreement. So the fear of reform shouldn't mean that people should be then forced to vote you. People should not be taken for granted. But I just needed to say this, that the surest way to get a reform who will then show us shaggy is to then divide those votes on the left. But which is where, as you've rightly said, Olwomo, we come in, because as an activist, you speak to the people, but then as a politician, I also speak to those who are making these laws to say, look, you do need to build trust, because trust is being eroded. But I can't say that without giving kudos to a few people. In Derby here, we have 2 Labour MPs. We have Bagishanka, we have Catherine. And I can say for a fact that because of their intervention, a few people who had issues with their status, that issue, immigration setup, some of those issues were resolved positively because they stepped in and they asked certain questions and they got responses that so when you write to your MP and when you engage your MP, these people understand that that their constituents need help, but we need everyone to do that together across board. And I was also explaining to someone the other day that the reason why a lot of MPs would not say things publicly is because the UK politics or the parliamentary politics has a whipping system where you can't just accept you're officially revolting. You can't just come out and speak against what the government is doing in your official capacity. Or otherwise the whip will be removed from you. But when you engage a lot of these MPs personally, you will see that yes, they are always willing to help with our communities. Seems to have lost Oluomo there. But then I must also add that we have a few MPs who are from our communities. We have one of the most amazing MPs I know anyway, Florence Ashalomi. I'll always Kola Omoyami, who actually did stand up in parliament to ask about what would happen to people who are already on a 5-year path to getting permanent stay. So there are people who are speaking, but of course we do need to keep engaging a lot more. Cheta, we seem to have lost Olwomo. I think it's just message to say that there's a bit of an issue in the background. So shall we?
Is it that you people's internet and Debbie's?
Oh, he's back.
Sorry.
Okay, I know that you people stay in the hinterlands. You people have internet problems there, Abby.
We're using Blue and MTN.
Cheta, I'll have you know that there shall be no Derby or even the wider Derbyshire internet slander.
You people have a team called the Rams. So what do you expect?
Yes, we will knock you over.
Fantastic.
Knock what over? You are in division what?
In championships.
Currently occupying what position on the table?
We'll be back with the big boys soon. Don't worry about that.
Cheta, don't worry about it. We are happy with ourselves. We love our Rams here.
Okay, we'll make you people clear.
If in fact, Cheta, I dare you come to Derby, stand at Pride Park and say whatever you want about the Rams.
Are you encouraging football hooliganism?
No, I've not said anything will happen. I'm just saying I'm encouraging you to come and say.
There's an implied threat there.
Anyway, yeah. So I was finished my I'm done with my rant, as it were.
Okay. Regarding the stuff, so for me, like we were talking about earlier on, regarding the solutions itself is, our people have to be engaged. Our people are scared, but we need to reassure them that nothing is going to happen to you. Writing to your MP is just a part of way of life. Writing to your MP doesn't mean the Home Office is going to be checking why you're writing, your details, or they're going to put it in the system. So if we can educate our people and put that across their mind, you see the lump sum how much many people will start writing to their local MPs instead. Now, thirdly, a lot of our people also are not interested in politics, and like I've always said it. So this one of the things that I think is important for us to be having this kind of educative program for me to understand that, listen, maybe you like it or not, the politics issues will affect your way of life. You understand? If someone comes to me and said nobody's going to get indefinite leave to remain in the UK, so be it. So you have no choice. It's either you're part of it or you keep on complaining every day. So you also have to make that change if you want that change to happen itself. Now, a lot of our people who have also come into the UK itself, when a lot of people don't know about how the system works, a lot of people, don't even know what political party is best for them, what political party is pro-migrant friendly. I think what I can do is sometimes maybe have someone like Kundu, who is a Labour person, have a conservative person. We can have intellectual debate, and people can make up their minds. You understand? Because somebody accused me recently of being a very pro-Labour Party member
What
in
about the
UK.
Liberal
So,
Democrats?
well, I'm not sure we have a Labour Democrat in our community, but we'll put we'll put a message out there if we can.
Well,
We
I
have
can
to have the
tell you
Green
that
Party as well.
the Nigerians that support reform and the Nigerians that support Liberal Democrats. Find them.
Well, the Nigerian supporting reform, me and them will be wearing our t-shirts on the program like this because but the beauty
No,
of democracy is people who support different political parties, and we have to respect that. But
yeah.
I don't think Nigerian support reform will want to sit at the same table with me because even you yourself, sitting on the same table, you're target to even Nigel Farage and his colleagues. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
not too
remember
sure.
meeting one about 3 years ago who was actually standing as a reform candidate.
Okay.
And when I asked, why on earth are you doing this? Do you not know what this will stand for? And then she was like, oh yeah, when they start, I tell them to stop. I'm like, what? But anyway, but, yeah, but I do agree. We do need to have conversations and also perhaps see if we can bring on, as I mentioned earlier, we do have members of parliament who are of African heritage. The people like I've already mentioned Florence Shalomi. There's Chiomura. Oh God, there's our sister Kemi Badinok. There's Osamo. There's Bayo Alaba. Miata Fanbule. Juliet Campbell. Ben Obase Jekti. George Babarinde. There's quite a few. And it would be nice to somehow engage with them. Like Bell Ribeiro Adi, I think is even the UK of trade envoy to Ghana. So there are people who are climbing up, as it were, and who we should hear more of their voices speaking up for their communities and representing their communities. But if you don't have any more questions, Cheta, I think perhaps we can call it a wrap on this interview episode. And just to thank you very much, Benjamin, aka Oluomo of Derby, for making out time to speak with us and to say well done on your passion for the community, and to just say let's keep looking for ways to get everyone round a table to talk, but not just round the table, but out on the streets to make an impact, getting people to see the reason why, even if they may not be interested in politics is definitely interested in them.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Olwomo. I think for me, the key thing that jumped out in this discussion is the fact that a lot of our people, when they move from Nigeria to here, they unconsciously have a holdover of our political culture. Which our political culture there, I mean, is one of the reasons a lot of people took off. It's non-participatory. It discourages you, especially using the threat of violence, and people have that. People still carry those fears with them. I think, especially for you who is an activist, and for Nzukwe who has a seat at the table, it's important to let our people know consistently that it's a very different political culture. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to live in the shadows. As long as you're in the UK legitimately, you have every right, even if you don't have a UK passport yet, you have every right to participate, at least in terms of consultations, in terms of voting. Once you pay taxes, then you have a right. And correct me if I'm wrong, even as simple as council tax, once you pay council tax, then you have a right to discuss, to take part in politics, at least at some level.
I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, carry on.
No, go on. So I think for me, That's exactly what we should be looking for, because now we know what the problems are, what are the solutions moving forward. And Ndukwu is a perfect example. I'm still going to go back there. Like, look at what's happening around Dab City Council, Nigerian Independence Day. Just think we have someone like Ndukwu in the Home Office. It can be put into them that, listen, yes, you see from the Home Office point of view, but can we take away the benefit of social housing off the table, and then when everybody become a British citizen, they be entitled to anything like everybody else. So that Home Office sort of have a way, balanced option to understand. Okay, this is what the migrants community are heading towards. They're not interested in benefit. Listen, the bottom line is, I also my future is 90% of Nigerians are not interested in benefits. That's the truth. You understand? Because I mean, how
For
much is
what
in the
now?
benefits? But the truth is there's also some part of migrant community who also, depending, look at the gypsies, for example, those kind of people. I mean, I don't like using names, so you don't feel like you're picking on some people.
The traveling community is what
The traveling community, you
we call
understand?
them.
So, and all these things also affect the system, you understand? So sometimes I'm seeing from the government's perspectives as well. I'm seeing from the fact that we say the British public are leaning to some anti-migrant communities and anti-migrant political parties. So what exactly are they doing wrong? You understand? Okay, how do we, re-energize themselves to win their local people back? You understand? I mean, there's a lot of Labour Party members who are also not happy with Keir Starmer at present, you understand? So there's a lot going on. In fact, somebody accused me, I mean, lately, and have you noticed, okay, whenever there's a backlash from the Home Office, some of us get a backlash. Saying, hey, Olwomo, you bring in these Labour Party members only, blah, blah. Someone's like, don't be surprised that they don't even pay that guy. You hear different kind of stuff, you understand? But this exactly was saying that British politics do not work the way Nigerian politics works. But I believe, our voice is loud enough. We educate our people, enlighten them, bring our people on board. Because some people don't even know that they have a right to vote, being Commonwealth citizens, you understand? So all of these things also make a big difference. Yeah, Ndukwu, go ahead, sir.
No, it's just quite interesting. I mean, I've had to remind people as well that, look, we're all in the same boat. So don't think that because I'm a councillor, somehow someone called me into a back room and gave me British citizenship. No, we're all, but I'm being vocal about it, and, we all do need to be vocal about it. But that's, and just a little story about Nigerian politics and the parallels here. During the general elections, someone called me like, "Oh, I've gone. I want to go and vote, but I can't find the polling unit." I'm like, "Hang on, it's just there. It's that school." But the person expected to go see like 2 big tents, see a huge line. Meanwhile, it was just some hall next to a primary school.
They say touts.
Didn't see touts, didn't see people. So it's just we need to shift our mind. But
I think let me support that with an anecdote. The first time I voted in the UK was back in 2007, when Boris Johnson became Mayor of London.
Mayor of London.
Yes, I voted for Boris Johnson then, because I mean, a lot of people were very unhappy at Ken Livingstone. Was that 2007 or 2008?
Yes, Ken Livingstone. Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, so people were very unhappy with Ken Livingstone. So anyway, it was my first experience voting outside Nigeria, and it was so boring. I couldn't believe what I was saying. Like, you came, you talked with the voting officers, just had a nice chat. Somebody even offered you a cup of tea, and then that kind of. I was like, where are the touts? Where are you pressing your finger? Nobody is rubbing ink on your hand. Nobody's giving you something to come and vote. Like, it was very, very that experience stuck with me.
Okay.
It's a wonderful experience.
On that issue of reminiscence, thanks Oluomo for joining us today, and thanks Cheta for your provoking or for continually prodding me and reminding me I'm a member of the Labour Party, which I proudly am. I'll see you at the next one.
No, I'm going to borrow, or do I say steal Oluomo's expression? It's no longer Labour Party, just Labour Party. You actually you're on the high table. So that's the new expression for you.
Absolutely.